Picture this. It's Monday morning. You're in a quiet, kind of boring suburb, the kind where the biggest scandal is usually a garbage bin left out too long.
Right.
You pour your coffee, you look out the window at your front yard, something just feels off. It takes a second to register. Your garden gnome, the one you've ignored for 5 years, has turned around.
Okay, weird wind, maybe. That's what you'd think.
Exactly. But then you look at your neighbor's yard. Their gnome has turned around too. And the neighbor 2 doors down, and the one across the street. Every single garden gnome in the entire neighborhood has rotated overnight to face the exact same direction.
It really does sound like the opening scene of a Stephen King novel or maybe a prank war that's gotten way, way too far. But this is the reality right now for the residents of the Timberline Pointe subdivision in Calera, Alabama. And frankly, the more I dig into the documentation on this, the less it feels like a prank. And the more it just feels impossible.
So today, we are diving deep into what the locals are calling the Southern Migration. And just to set the table here, we aren't just reading tweets about this. We've pulled the actual police incident logs from the Calera PD. We have the frantic email chains from the Homeowners Association.
And we've got the forensic analysis reports on the security footage, the footage that is driving the internet absolutely insane.
We also have interviews with folklore experts and cybersecurity consultants. Because to understand this, you have to look at 2 things. The technology that failed to catch anyone.
And the history of the land itself.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We need to figure out if we are looking at the most sophisticated, high-budget prank in human history, or if something unexplainable is actually happening in Alabama.
Let's start with the event itself. Sunday night, 11 p.m., everything's normal. Monday, 6 a.m., 50 gnomes are looking south.
And looking south is actually an understatement, right?
No, it is. I was reading the incident report filed by Deputy Mark Davidson. He was the responding officer. He didn't just eyeball it. He actually got out his standard issue compass to document the scene.
No way.
Yeah. He noted that every single one of the 50 gnomes was aligned to 180 degrees.
180 degrees. That's perfect south.
Dead on. The variance was less than 1 degree across 50 different properties. Now think about the logistics of that. I mean, these are lawn ornaments on grass, on mulch, on uneven concrete.
Right.
To align 50 irregular objects that precisely you can't just nudge them with your foot, you need surveying tools. Laser levels, something like that.
And you'd need muscle. I was looking at the statement from a resident, Michael Stevens. He mentioned his gnome is concrete, not plastic.
Right. And Stevens' gnome weighs about 40 pounds, but here's the kicker. He had it bolted to a 60-pound concrete paver to stop people from stealing it.
So we're talking about a combined weight of 100 pounds.
100 pounds of dead weight. That isn't like moving a pillow. It makes noise, it scrapes. And yet, between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m., 50 of these heavy, awkward objects were rotated with mathematical precision. And not a single person heard a thing. No dogs barked, no motion lights triggered, nothing.
But the rotation isn't even the weirdest part of that first discovery. It's what appeared with the gnomes.
The mushrooms. This is the detail that really shifts this from, frat prank to something more like art installation.
So what are we talking about here?
Overnight, a small statue appeared exactly 3 feet in front of every single gnome. They're about 6 inches tall, made of stone or ceramic, and they look like morel mushrooms.
I saw the photos in the police file. These don't look like they came from a big box store.
No. The residents described them as looking weathered. There was moss growing on them, like real moss, not painted on. They looked like they'd been sitting in a deep forest for 50 years and then just poof. They're on a manicured lawn in Calera.
And again, the precision.
The precision. Exactly 3 feet in front of the gnome. It creates this very specific visual. The gnome is staring right at the mushroom.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say I have a team of, 15 ninjas. We have laser sights, we have felt-soled shoes so we don't make noise, and a truck full of mossy ceramic mushrooms. We do the job, but people have cameras.
And this is where we hit the surveillance paradox, and this is where the skeptical explanation starts to really crumble for me. We know for a fact that at least 15 of the homes involved have active security systems.
And we're talking the big names. Ring, Nest, Arlo.
The big 3.
Yeah. And those things trigger if a squirrel sneezes. I get notifications when a leaf blows across my porch.
Precisely. But an IT consultant, Dennis Wright, he analyzed the logs for the neighborhood. And he points out that these aren't just cameras, they're whole ecosystems. Ring uses specific algorithms, Nest uses a totally different protocol, Arlo is different again.
Right.
To hack a camera system usually means, brute forcing a password or jamming the Wi-Fi signal.
But jamming Wi-Fi is a thing. You can buy jammers.
You can. But if you jam the Wi-Fi, the camera usually logs a loss of connection event. Or if it has local storage, it just keeps recording. In this case, there were no connection drops. The logs show the systems were online and working perfectly. They just didn't see anything.
So to pull this off, you'd have to hack 3 different corporate infrastructures at the same time, tell the cameras to ignore human-sized motion, but keep recording the background so it doesn't look like there's a gap.
That is what Wright is saying. He called it, and I'm quoting here, state-level cyber warfare capabilities.
Wow.
Yeah. The kind of resources a nation-state uses to infiltrate a nuclear facility, being used to rotate garden gnomes in Alabama.
But hang on, didn't a couple of cameras catch something? I watched that glitch video from Brian Foster about 10 times.
Yes, Brian Foster's footage. This is the one that skeptics point to as evidence of a hack. You're watching the feed at 3:01 a.m. The gnome is facing east. The timestamp ticks over to 3:18 a.m. And instantly, like in the space of a single frame, the gnome is facing south and the mushroom is there.
It looks like a bad jump cut in a movie.
Yeah. It does. But video analysts looked at the raw data, the iframes in the video file. Usually, if you splice footage, you get compression artifacts, little digital scars. This file is clean. It's like the camera just blinked and the world changed in that millisecond.
That's unnerving. But it's not as terrifying as Sarah Mitchell's video.
No, Sarah Mitchell's footage is. It's the one that keeps me up at night. This was recorded at 2:47 a.m. Unlike Foster's, this isn't a jump cut. You actually see the movement.
Okay, walk us through it for anyone who hasn't seen it.
You're looking at a grainy night vision shot of her lawn. The gnome is there. And slowly, over about 30 seconds, the statue rotates clockwise.
And there's nobody touching it. No hands.
No hands, no ropes, no shadows. And the movement isn't a wobble. You know how if you drag concrete, it sort of jerks and chatters? This was smooth. It just pivoted on its own axis like it was on a greased turntable.
And then the mushroom arrives.
Arrives is a very polite way to put it. In the video, the mushroom statue literally fades into existence. It's transparent for a second, then opaque. It just materializes out of thin air.
I mean, my first thought is CGI, special effects.
That was my first thought, too. But Sarah Mitchell handed the raw file directly to the police. 2 separate, independent analysts confirmed the metadata hasn't been touched. There are no layers, no compositing. According to the data, the camera sensor recorded photons that suggest a mushroom appearing from nowhere.
So the police are baffled, the tech guys are terrified, and the homeowners are, I assume, freaking out. And naturally, everyone's looking for an explanation. You've kind of broken it down into 3 main theories floating around.
Right. We have the skeptic, the folklore, and the spiritual. Let's start with Dr. James Richardson from Auburn. He's firmly in the skeptic camp.
And he thinks this is just really, really good trolling.
He calls it trolling at the highest level. He admits the execution is genius, he acknowledges the difficulty, but his stance is basically Occam's razor.
It's more likely to be genius hackers than magic gnomes.
Exactly. It's more likely that a group of brilliant people with way too much time on their hands are messing with us than it is that statues are coming to life. He thinks the impossible nature of it is the point. It's performance art.
Okay, I get that. But then there's theory 2, the one that connects to the local geography.
The folklore theory. This comes from Randy Pickett, a local historian. He points out that if you draw a line south from Timberline Pointe, you go straight into Chilton County.
And Chilton County is known for it.
Mississippian-era burial mounds. Ancient earthworks. Pickett's theory is fascinating. He claims there's an oral history that suggests morel mushrooms were used as trail markers by the indigenous peoples to guide travelers to these sacred sites.
So the mushroom statues aren't just decorations?
In this theory, no. They are waypoints. Breadcrumbs. The gnomes aren't just facing south, they are being guided. They are looking toward the temple mounds. He calls it a spiritual migration.
Which implies the gnomes have agency, or something is calling them.
He believes the spirits of the land are repurposing the statues to return to the sacred sites.
Which is strangely beautiful, until you talk to Pastor Dale Hutchins.
Right. Theory 3, the spiritual or More specifically, the demonic. Pastor Hutchins is, well, he's not a fan of gnomes to begin with. He calls them pagan fertility idols.
Which, to be fair, is historically not entirely wrong.
True. But he views this event as coordinated spiritual warfare. He thinks the mushrooms are demonic totems and the rotation is evidence of possession. He's actually organizing a prayer circle to perform a mass exorcism on the lawn ornaments.
Mobilized idols. That was the phrase he used.
Yes. He wants to stop them before they are fully mobilized.
Which sounds, well, it sounds ridiculous.
Well,
Until Wednesday happened. Because on Wednesday, the situation escalated in a way that, I have to be honest, made me laugh out loud, but also gave me goosebumps.
the second act. The gnomes didn't move from their spots, but they started receiving upgrades.
Let's talk about the gear, because this is where the detail level goes from impressive to just obsessive.
Dennis Cooper was the first one. He goes out to get his paper, looks at his gnome, and it's wearing a backpack.
Now, when you say backpack, do you mean like a kid's doll backpack tied around it?
No. I'm looking at the close-up photos Cooper posted. This is a custom-fabricated scale model hiking pack. We're talking stitched canvas, tiny working brass buckles, little side pockets. It fits the gnome perfectly. And in the side pocket, a water bottle. About the size of a cymbal, but it looks like a miniature Nalgene bottle.
See, that's the detail that kills me. Someone had to make that. You can't go to a store and buy a gnome hiking kit.
Exactly. And it wasn't just one. By Thursday, 7 gnomes had gear. Lisa Henderson's gnome got a backpack and a tiny hand-whittled walking stick.
A walking stick.
And Sarah Mitchell, the woman with the ghost video, her gnome got a rolled-up sleeping bag lashed to its backpack. She actually said the gnome looked better prepared for camping than she does.
And what about Tom Patterson's gnome?
The navigator. His gnome appeared with a small compass around its neck. And I checked the notes on this. The compass works. It's magnetized. And it was locked, pointing needle perfect south.
This feeds right back into that pilgrimage theory. They're gearing up for a trip.
It absolutely does. But the smoking gun for the folklore theory came from Kevin Barnes. His gnome didn't just get gear, it got a map.
A tiny map.
A tiny hand-drawn map held in the gnome's hand. It shows the route from Calera down into central Chilton County. There's a literal X marking the spot where the burial mounds are.
So whoever or whatever is doing this is explicitly telling us the destination.
Yes. And I just want to pause on the logistics again. If this is a prankster, think about the supply chain. You have to manufacture 50 tiny backpacks. You have to source miniature binoculars, lanterns, bedrolls, mess kits.
Mess kits.
Yes, actual tiny tin pans. This isn't just 3D printed plastic. This is mixed materials. If you were a prop master for a movie, this would take weeks to fabricate. Someone did this for 50 gnomes and deployed them overnight, again, without being seen.
So now you have a neighborhood full of gnomes that look like they're about to hike the Appalachian Trail. How are the humans handling this?
Not well. The HOA is in a complete meltdown. We have the minutes from their emergency meeting. The president, Linda Morrison, basically admitted defeat. She said, and I quote, "Our bylaws prohibit unapproved structures, but they do not cover supernatural gnome rotation or miniature camping accessories."
I mean, how do you even write a fine for that? Sir, your gnome is loitering with intent to camp.
Exactly. And they can't remove them because the residents are now terrified to even touch them.
So what are they doing?
Well, Pastor Hutchins is yelling about demons. The skeptics are looking for hackers, but some residents have started a gnome watch. Which brings us to my favorite story of this whole saga, the vigil.
Okay.
This is just perfect human resilience. One resident, who wanted to stay anonymous, decided they were done with cameras. They set up a lawn chair in their front yard, got a cooler of beer, a bag of chips, and just sat directly in front of their gnome.
Old school surveillance, eyeballs on the target.
Right. They sat there until about 3 a.m., fell asleep in the chair. When they woke up at sunrise, the gnome hadn't moved. But placed directly next to the resident's chair was a tiny matching folding chair for the gnome.
No way.
Yes. Same color webbing and everything. The resident posted a picture with the caption, "Now we're matching. We're both just sitting here, waiting. This is my life now."
That feels incredibly cheeky. That doesn't
Yeah.
feel like a demon to me. That feels like a trickster spirit or, a prankster with a heart of gold.
It's polite. That's the thing. Nothing has been damaged. No property has been destroyed. Technically, the value of these gnomes has gone up because of the custom accessories.
So where do we stand right now? The gnomes are facing south. They have supplies. They have a map.
As of this morning, 31 of the 50 gnomes are fully equipped. The backpacks are on. The mushrooms are acting as their focal point. and the neighborhood is in a standoff. They are just watching and waiting.